This year I'm going to be starting my trees in a nursery area so I don't have to deal with the deer and cows causing problems. And to do that, over the winter I put my pigs in an area that I fenced off here, and you can see they've completely tilled everything up for me. I'll be moving them off soon, and in there I'm going to be planting apples, I'm going to be grafting, and mulberries I'm going to graft, and as well as Chinese chestnuts I'm going to be direct seeding. And then I think I'm going to cover it over with, instead of doing mulch, I'm thinking about trying a living mulch with white clover. Okay, so here's what we got. I've got chestnut seeds that have been in the fridge all winter. I got just regular Chinese chestnuts, and then the seeds from a variety called Dunstan's. I think there's about 600 seeds there. And then my apple rootstocks came in the other day. I got about 250 of these this year. Those I got from Lawyer Nursery. And then my cyanwood I got from a couple different guys online. I got a lot of hard cider varieties this year. I'm going to do a lot of Gold Rush. It's the variety I chose. And mulberries. These are one-year seedlings from the conservation department here in Missouri. I can get these really cheap through them. They're just regular red mulberry, and then online I was able to find a guy selling scion for it. I'm going to graft over. These are Illinois mulberry. And then while I was at it, ordering from the conservation department, I also picked up a couple. What are they? Hazelnuts and pecans. And I think I'll grow the pecans out there a couple years and graft them over to a known cultivar in the following years. But this is how you can start trees really cheap, and a whole bunch of them. Here's what I do to graft my trees, just a simple setup. We're grafting apple trees today. What I use here is parafilm. I use the 1-inch stuff. I usually just cut myself some about 3-inch strips. I just use a utility knife, works for me. I got some tree labels. I like the metal ones. I got my scion wood. I got some alcohol to sterilize the blade. And then I got some I got some wax in a double boiler setup. And then my rootstocks are here in this bucket, and then the ones I've already grafted I throw in this bucket. Maybe I'll run through a graft here. Alright, so what we do here is we grab a stick of scion. See about what diameter it is. And I find a rootstock to match. I'll cut this end off here. Alright, I do whip and tongue grafts, which goes something like this. Just want to get that surface nice and flat. that, and then make a corresponding cut on the rootstock, about the same diameter. Here. Get it to where they're about the same size. This isn't really meant to be a in-depth how-to on grafting, more so just showing what I do. Let you know that you can graft. It's not really that difficult. So then the next part is to make the tongue. You come in about a little over halfway. That is where I like to start. And dig that sucker right down in there. Really careful. I lock all this together so I don't, because sometimes this will cut right through and you could really easily cut yourself right there. Do the same thing on here. Come in a little over halfway up that cut and just come straight down into it. Sticks like that. Okay, and then those are going to slide together. Those tongues interlock. And then what you do is just below the bark there's this kind of green layer, and you want all that to match up all the way around, or as good as you can. At least try to get one side matching up pretty good, and it'll probably take. And then you take your parafilm, and I'm moving these around while I'm doing this to make sure they're lined up good. And sometimes you can really wrap it kind of tight to make them snug up together. Okay. And then all these little nodes on here, these are where the tree is going to grow from. You only need 2 or 3 of them on here to make that type of tree grow. So I'm going to keep, there's one down here, and there's one here. I'm going to keep 2 of them on this one. Cut it off. Keep this, we'll keep grafting with that. And this, we seal up that end, that's what the wax is for. Just dip it in and it's done. Now we can make another one. Starts over again. So when you buy, I usually buy, you got to buy these things early because people will sell out, and you got to get it while the wood's still in the dormant season. So January is probably a good time to order all this stuff. And then you can just keep it in the fridge and it'll stay dormant. The rootstocks don't come in until it's time to start grafting, but the scion wood, sometimes those guys will ship earlier. You just keep it in the fridge in a bag. See, it came in this bag here. It's got a wet paper towel in there to kind of keep everything moist, and then the temperature in the fridge keeps it dormant until you're ready to go. So 1, 2. A lot of people leave 3 on there, but I'm trying to stretch these as far as I can because I've only got so many. Keep on grafting on down this. So if you're into farming, and most people like us are usually do-it-yourselfers, you do all kinds of things, you can probably graft. When you figure out, stick a scion, these are usually $3 to $4, and you can usually get 3 to 4 trees out of this. And a rootstock is, I think they were like 70 cents a piece. So you figure you're, I don't know, $1.50 per tree, somewhere around there. That's pretty cheap. And most of them will take. Not all of them, but most of them, your grafts will be successful if you take your time and
Try to do a good job. And if they don't take, see, I use standard size rootstocks. This is a full size apple tree. This is Antonovica apple. They're grown from seed. I like full size apple trees because I'm running cows out here, and I'm wanting to do the silvopasture. I want to run my cows under the apple tree, so I have to have full size. And full size trees live the longest. You know, there's 100-year-old apple trees that are full size, whereas the dwarf trees will die much sooner. And they're a lot more drought tolerant. You don't have to, these trees, I've got a big old apple tree out in my field right now. I don't have to do anything to it, and it will crank out apples every year. I really like that. So yeah, if your grafts don't take, the rootstock will keep growing, more than likely. And then the next year, you can try grafting it again. Or later in that year, if you do a different type of grafting, like a chip budding, or chip grafting, or tea budding. Those are the type of grafts that you can do later in the season. So you can get more than one shot during the year to do this. And these, my pigs are still out in that nursery area right now, so I'm just putting all these in an old water trough full of peat moss and perlite mix. It's warm enough outside right now, they should start, their buds should start popping open before too long. Now the mulberry trees I'm grafting, those you're not supposed to bench graft like this. You're supposed to plant those seedlings out in the field and let them leaf out. And then after they leaf out, and the leaves are about half size or so, about that time they say you can start grafting mulberries. For whatever reason, the graft takes better that way. Alright, I've moved the pigs off of my nursery area. They're happy in their new spot over there with some grass. And I'm going to get started planting my trees. What I've done here is, this first area here, I went over with a tiller for my tractor. I could have went over it with disc, but the tiller just is so much easier. Actually, I'm pretty sure I could have just not done anything and just planted right into it, which I was pretty excited about, but since I got the tiller I figured I'd use it. So now I'm gonna make some rows here to start planting into. And here is that water trough I was talking about with, that's my gold rush grafts. And once I plant all these out, I'll start grafting the other varieties. Alright, trying to get a shot here to show you what's going on. Stretched out my string line here, and I'm just planting trees down it, pulling them out of my water trough here. They've been in this container for about, I don't know, a week or two as I've been grafting them. And
them down the line. And I'm just taking a shovel here and digging myself some holes. I got them spaced out about 1.5 feet apart, and just popping them in there and patting them down, and then I'll water them in. Alright, I got all my apples planted. I have 1, 2, 3 rows of apples. Oh, and then the 4th row of rootstock I didn't graft over, but maybe next year I'll graft them. And then I got mulberries, a couple rows of those. And yep, got some geese. I started planting my chestnuts, and what I'm doing is I took a bunch of these plastic cups, I stacked them up, and I took a piece of 3/8 rebar and heated it up with a torch and melted a hole through the top. And then see if I can do this here. Okay, so let's glove off. Taking a seed, and popping the seed end on my string line, and then putting that cup like right over top of it to help keep. Apparently everything likes to eat these chestnuts, so a lot of guys take like a roofing flashing or something and make something, but these cups were really cheap. They were just the little 9-ounce cups from Walmart. So we'll see if that works. And I'm basically making rows of them. Definitely worked out better with the tiller. Actually making like 3 passes makes it nice and loose. Yeah, I was hoping that just planting into what the pigs had done would be good enough, but honestly, the tiller is really making this so much better. It's just so much easier to plant into it after I run the tiller over it a couple times. So I think you could do just as well with a little walk-behind tiller, though, just tilling just the row instead of having a big tractor tiller. So a big part of me growing these trees is not only for people food, but for animal food. So let's see if the pigs like chestnuts. Come on, pigs! Ho, piggers, come on! Come on! You like these? Come here. I'm going to take that as a yes. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I want to talk about these chestnut seeds, something I noticed. You got to buy these in the fall, right after they fall off the trees. And you store them in the fridge. And what I did was stored them in bags. I had read on the internet, on some forums, guys having success just throwing them in a Ziploc bag. And some guys were saying to keep them moist, and some guys said just to take them dry and stick them in a bag and seal it off, and they'll stay fine. So after doing both those methods, my dry ones seemed to have bigger problems than the ones that had a bit of moisture in the bags. So these ones were dry, and this batch had been in a bag with where you could kind of see water moisture covering everything. And the dry ones, you can see this here, that got really moldy. That one too. So these are the good ones. That's how they should look. But it didn't get to all of them, but it did definitely get to some of them. And I did have some of them too in the bags that were wet, but it seemed to only be on the sides of the bags that were drying out. Here, I'll show you. Let's cut this guy open. See what it did to the nut itself. And that one doesn't really look, that doesn't look very good. Let's cut open this other one. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, that one's kind of like got a rotten spot in the middle of it. Yeah, let's take a look at a good one here, just for comparison. And the good one's more, it's a lot brighter. It's not got this kind of rotten looking stuff in it. So some people say for keeping the nuts in like sphagnum peat moss and keeping that kind of wet. I hadn't had good luck with that with persimmons and pawpaws, so I was just figuring I'd try this bag method. But I would say, at least for me, keeping them slightly moist, like coated with kind of moisture, not soaking wet, but still coated with the moisture, seemed to keep the mold off, in my situation anyways.